All right, guys. Well, we're back with another really cool episode. I'm here with my guys. We're the Salem's Lot Minority. Yes, that is our official name. Yeah. But I'm here with Boogeyman Ben coming around the bend. How's it going, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Wow, that rhymed.
Sing that song. Sing that song.
Yeah, every time I go
Rhymed.
on his channel, I hear that Boogeyman Ben, and I can't get it out of my head after that. So,
So funny. I know.
yeah.
It's so funny.
Hey, we're joined by Sam from the YouTube channel Tabby. How's it going, man?
Seen better days, but better days are coming, man. It's been a crazy month.
That's
Yeah,
right.
It has been.
It has been a crazy month. So we got some really cool stuff to talk about with you, Ben. I'm really excited to talk about this. And I think all the Salem's Lot people are going to be really excited about this too. But first, man, we gotta address it, right? Sad week. I know, Ben, you put out some just a really awesome tribute in your series that you're doing on Boogeyman Ben, the Quiet Little Tributes. Did a great tribute to Lance Kerwin we lost this week. Man, just a great tribute. And I did a quick announcement. But man, I keep seeing all these comments about people who just loved him. And I don't even know what to say. I said it all. He was a great guy. He was a great actor. I can't believe that I was able to get to know him a little bit before he passed away, but I don't know. I want to ask you guys your thoughts about Lance. Ben, what do you got?
It was weird the day that happened. Because I told you guys that it happened, and at first I was like, I had a friend reach out to me. My friend Russell Waggis. He actually is the guy that made these. He made the Salem's Lot cards and everything. Just a great guy, and he reached out to me, and I was at work. I was working, and so it was like a little after 1, I believe, and it just didn't seem real because you had just done the interview with him last June, and I remember watching that because I was actually out of town when you aired that, so I was actually getting ready to go to a site and watching that as I was getting ready for work, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. No one had really, it was just, he had kind of disappeared for a while. And it seemed like that interview and then some of the convention appearances he did last year, it kind of brought him back into the limelight. And like I said in my tribute, it seemed like he was really happy. I know he's had a hard time. He's had some hard times in his life. And I didn't want to focus on that in the video because that's all people focused on, from CNN to Entertainment Tonight. I mean, I was looking at little tributes to him and I'm like, of course they have to bring that up because I'm not going to say it here, but it irritates me because I'm like, the man passed. Just be respectful for what he gave to the world.
That's right.
What he did to himself, if he was his own worst enemy at some point in his life, that's on him. That's something he had to live with. It didn't affect us. I just look at the content that he put out. And of course, Salem's Lot is the thing I know him best from. But I just felt like he finally seemed like he was surprised at how it just seemed like he was flattered by how much people remembered him. And I had somebody, I believe her name was Bambi. I'm going to say that name. If I get it wrong, I apologize. On the Salem's Lot Then and Now page, thanked me for putting the video together and said that she was a friend of his. And he was surprised by how much people still loved him and that how much people still remembered him. And even his daughter, I sent the video to his daughter, Savannah. She thanked me for it. I just did it because, and I want Sam to have his time, but I'm just going to say this. To me, he was one of my first heroes. And I said it very straightforward in that video. He's as a character, Mark stood by who he was. He never, people would say, why are you into this? Why do you do this? Why do you like that? I just do. And the fact that he was strong enough, even in the situations that he was going through, to go after the creature and the people that took what he loved away from him just shows. I think that's the convictions of that character is always something that resonated with me, and he played it beautifully.
Yeah, he did.
And I idolized everything about him. I remember trying to find the shoes that he wore in the Salem slot when I was a kid because I thought his shoes were cool. I don't know why. Again, when you're a kid, you pick up on things, characters and costumes and things like that. And I wanted a jacket like he wore. I remember that stuff like
Yeah.
that. I didn't want to put all that in the video because I felt like that was just, just me talking about stuff. But he meant a lot to me. And the character, in my opinion, and I've talked about it before, no one can touch that character. And so many people have said we lost our Mark Petrie, and we did. And
So
that's
true.
where I'm going to leave it. That's what I loved about him, a strong character. And even though he had emotions and was vulnerable, he always came back to his center. And that's what I loved about him.
Yes. Sam, what you got, man?
Oh, kind of the same thing. It's Novocaine of the brain. I mean, I was getting over the passing of David Crosby because I'm a musician.
Yeah, that was hard.
So that was a numbskull of a processing thing, and still is, really. It's weird to hear a name and then have the word past or dead after the name. That jars you a little bit.
Yeah.
I got the text from Ben right around the same time that you got it, Danny, and it was literally like, whoa, wait, what? It was that kind of reaction because you just like, no, that can't be, but it obviously is. It's just so weird how the brain has that delay.
Yeah.
And that processing window of however long you're supposed to go, oh, yeah, it is the truth. And then you start going on Google and you go on Facebook, whatever vices you have to confirm something like that. But it's, people got to go. People have got to have some point where that's it. But I think it's the pace that it's going that is very unnerving. It's just, it used to be where someone passed, you had a week or two to kind of make sense of it. If it was a childhood hero or a childhood musician or an artist, doesn't matter what occupation, you had a little bit kind of like a mourning period, but it just seems like once every 2 days.
Yeah.
Someone's dropping off the cliff and your brain just can't wrap around it.
Yeah.
I didn't follow him on anything other than Salem's Lot. I knew the other things that he was involved with, like James at 15 and cameo appearances and television appearances like everyone else back in the day. And there's either people who have gotten past that and had a richer life outside the industry. Perfect example is probably Ron. That's not an easy business, especially if family's involved. It depends on the people that you had that nurtured you to be what you are, and your choice if you want to carry it through your adult years or if you want to stop and go back to school after you've acted as a childhood actor. Time and place, I just look at it as, wow, when he was in Salem's Lot, that looked like it was really from the heart. You don't see him, or at least I don't picture him reading the script too much. It seemed like he had to read it through maybe a couple times and he just really marinated in that character. Like when he's confronting Danny with the cross. I mean, those are real tears. That is not Hollywood, man. That is just balls to the wall emotion. And you feel his anxiety, you feel his fear, and you feel him fighting back, but you also want to encourage him to stay strong and be positive in what he believes in. This is not just a childhood hobby. This is something that's becoming a true reality. So just in his expressions and his eyes, his body language, telling him to go away, that, wow, that's true acting. That is complete true craft acting. And if you don't feel anything after that, there's something wrong with you. When he tucks back in bed and puts the cross under the sheet and looks at that window, there's just absolute, honest to God fear. Nothing else, just fear laying right on that plate. So really left field. But at the same time, it's just, I'm glad we're doing something like this. I'm glad that, you guys especially have the vehicle to go on and do tributes and remembrance, not for the attention. It's just, no, we really do have a passion for this thing. I mean, we are the nerds of it, and I'm happy to say that because it has done something to us. It's evolved over the years, and to bring the three of us together, to associate that and to talk about that and share that. I mean, you can't put a price tag on that.
You can't. Yeah.
No. Absolutely. I love what you said about that too. Just that we're not doing it for the notoriety. We're doing it because we loved it meant something to us now and in the past. It sort of, it impacted us, it shaped us. There is something about these performances that I know shaped me, and I'm sure you guys can attest to that as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just aside going to Ferndale and being there for the exterior shots and feeling something. Like Ben said, Ferndale is a haven. Ferndale is something that I don't know if people truly 100% understand, that when we go there, there is this reset button that seems to get pressed all the way down. And meaning that Ben, I think you provided a fantastic example of people actually acknowledge you, people thank you. People hold the door open. People will wave at you from cars, police cars. They engage in conversation. There's thank you, you're welcome, excuse me, have a nice day. And when you get back to what you do after that, there's something missing. There really is a gap in just everyday human connection and connectivity that you don't get here. And so all you could think is, man, I just can't wait to get back there again.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, all right. So here, one of the things I was really thinking about after I heard that Lance had passed away, one of the things I was thinking about was, his performance in Salem's Lot. I remember him telling me that because I wanted to ask him about the kitchen scene.
I remember that because I rewatched. I actually listened to it on my drive the other day.
Yeah.
Same here, actually. That's funny. I did the same thing.
But, I think out of everything he filmed in that movie, that's probably the most intense. And you can't easily rebuild that set and do a take two on it when you look at everything that happened. So, he's like, we did it in one take. And he told me in that interview, he said, well, I got caught looking. So I think he was kind of taking everything in that was happening. But at the same time, if it were real, you would be taking in everything that was happening and you'd be stunned just like he was. He had that look, and just to hear it and just to see him point and say, I'm going to kill you with that much. I mean, he just had it in his voice. Yeah, he really had that conviction in his voice. So to me, that's what kind of actor he was. And
it's funny. I re-listened to it because I remember I was listening to it. I hadn't watched it since last summer, and I said I want to watch this again because I knew there was a possibility we were going to talk. And I said I want to re-listen to it because I remembered that he said he didn't feel like his performance was strong enough because he was looking and observing and watching everything happen. And he said, I think I got caught just kind of in the moment, because he also talked about the fact that Reggie was they didn't see him a lot.
Yeah.
That was like their first exposure to him, was that scene.
Right. Yeah. It's not like they chatted with him before the scene, or they collaborated in some form. Like, if you do this, I'll do that. It was just literally in the moment.
Yeah.
And I just think that scene builds so well, just the way Barlow rises up. And then you see him just come in like this. I always thought that was such a cool moment, because the reactions of all the characters, specifically Callahan and Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's almost just like it is. I wanted to put that at the beginning of my scene with for my tribute to him, but that scene with him and Danny is always the one that stands out to me for some reason. I guess because it's just, I don't know why. I think it's the emotion in his face, and it's just him. It's just him and Danny. And then the scene after with his dad is always something that compelled me. And again, that comes down to good acting. And Joshua Bryant and him did a good job in that, because I think that, and that's again, I might be off on a tangent here a little bit, but that scene is so well directed because his dad never comes in to see him. He's outside the room and you can barely see him. He's almost just a shadow. And his son, he's like, I think he said, did you have a bad dream? He's like, you called out in your sleep. And instead of coming in to comfort his son, he stands away from him still. Yeah. Like, still just doesn't understand his son. And that, I think that space between them is so well illustrated in that scene.
Well, it was a great line from Lance too, because he doesn't confirm that if it was a dream or not. He just I don't know.
He said, I
Yeah.
don't remember. Yeah. It's just
Man.
like,
You
yeah.
don't remember, you
Yeah.
know? And I thought that was well worded. You could have easily
Yeah.
stated the obvious. Yeah, Dad, I had a bad dream. Would you come give me a glass of water? No,
Yeah.
he's just still trying to process what on earth just happened.
And
didn't
again,
realize
it
that
comes
he
back to
yelled
him
out.
coming back. Yeah. It all comes back to him coming back to his center. He was vulnerable. But then as soon as his dad said, "Are you all right?" He said, kinda. Or are you awake? And he goes, kinda. And that's like, it's again, he was terrified by what he was seeing, but was centered. And again, it's just the performance. Because if the performance isn't there,
Yeah.
it's not something you're going to remember.
No.
Well, all right. I got one more comment about the movie, and then I want to ask you about something, Ben.
Sure.
I don't know if I've ever said this, but one of the coolest parts, and it's so simple, one of the coolest parts of the whole movie is in the kitchen. Barlow is just standing there, and you just see him look like this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of looks
exactly what
soft
you're
like
talking about.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
'Cause
that
he's
music's
holding
going,
Mark, right? Yeah.
yeah, and the music's going boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of looking around. And I don't know what made Reggie do that, if he was instructed to do it or if he just did it. But I don't know what it is about that. It's so cool. I mean, am I the only one that's ever noticed just that simple thing? Just
That's the picture I have autographed from Lance that my friend Andrew got me. Because he said and I said, yeah, that's the picture I want. And it was that scene where
It's
he's
a
holding
great
him.
shot.
Yeah, it's just a great
he's
shot.
probably
Yeah.
just trying to process. Well, he's not processing, but I don't know if he understands the human language. I don't know if he comprehends with the vocabulary that's being exchanged. But there is this look like he's just kind of taking it in and wondering, okay, there's going to be kind of a showdown. There's going to be a battle here. It's going to be this against this. Are you ready for me? It's not like, hey, bring it on, which I think now if someone was trying to remake that, it would go straight to that jugular right away.
It's subtle.
But just like Danny said, there's just body language. That's the whole movie. Without any dialogue, there's body language, there's expressions exchanged from either an object or another human being that just spells out words. It just glosses over.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So cool. All right, Ben, you have got a really cool project coming up, right?
Yeah.
What is this? What's coming up? What do you got?
Well, I'm attempting to write a book, kind of based. The foundation of it is, I did the little documentary last year on the locations, and I've been trying to write something for a while. This is going to be a very personal story. I'm into chapter 4 already. I mean, it's rough, but I think any type of writing is rough when you first start. For like last week, I was too busy with work, but the week before that, I wrote pretty much every day. But it's coming through pretty good, and it's going to be called My Life in the Lot. That's what the little documentary I did last year was called. And I feel like that's a good story. And it's going to be just not only the movie, like how I became a fan of the movie, but also how I discovered Ferndale, how, now that unfortunately Lance has passed on, what these actors mean to me. So like those little the little quiet little tributes I'm doing, that's also going to play into it, because then I have like a basis for each of the actors and talk about them, because I have to talk about the movie and I have to talk about, the actors. But I didn't want to do it like everybody else would. I kind of wanted to talk about what each of them meant to me, and then give a little history into, their careers and, if they're still with us. But I plan to do that for each of that's why I'm doing those tribute videos. It's all kind of feeding into my writing, and it's tough now because, my job is very demanding. I haven't really had a passion on the channel to do anything outside of Salem's Lot. So I've been really I felt like that's all I was doing for a while. And now I feel like I'm trying to do a couple of other things here and there, because I don't want it to just be Salem's Lot. But I feel like this year I have no avoiding that. I feel like I want to have this book done by the end of the year. So, and what I focused on so far, I'm also working on the chapters. I think I'm going to have the chapters be like something. Each chapter is going to represent something from the film. So each chapter is going to represent an element from the film. So I think I'm still working on that. But going into it right now, I start the book pretty much talking about how I came upon Ferndale, because it was a fluke.
Mhm.
And then getting into my childhood, childhood divorce, kind of how my grandmother and I bonded, how she liked dark stories and things like that. We would watch cartoons together. And then she was, of course, the first one that saw Salem's Lot. She saw part one,
Mhm.
told me to watch it. We've talked about that, but it's sort of going into more specifics on how it impacted me, why, I eventually became a fan of it, and just sort of how it shaped my love of, everybody talks about the first movie that ever scared them, and usually that becomes their favorite movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just where I'm going with this. But Salem's Lot to me is more than just a movie. It's more than just a miniseries. And to me, it's a friend.
Mhm.
And it's been my friend, since I was technically 7 years old, because at 5 years old, it scared me too much. But at 7 years old, it became something that I couldn't live without. It was something where I had it in my life. But I talk about like renting it from the video store, how when my dad and his wife broke up, it was my stepmom at the time, that she had taped it for me, and then the divorce, it got lost, so for years I didn't have it. We would rent it from the video store. So it's like I just go into like, as much exposition as I can recall, and I recall quite a bit. So that's pretty much where I am now, and it's going to get up to going to Ferndale for the first time. The fact that my wife and I got engaged there, that we've gone back there many times. I mean, it's I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I think I'm writing it for me because I want to get it out there. And yeah, like I said, it's something I want to be done by the end of this year. I want it to be done. So
Nice.
that's what I'm working on.
Awesome.
Are you going to have any actual photos, or is it all just going to be text? Like, do you have any childhood photos you want to maybe,
I don't have a lot of childhood photos. So, I mean, I can put in photos of me. Like, I have pictures of me as a kid dressed up like Freddie and Jason and things like that, but I don't have anything where, like I had I remember I used to try, I wanted at one point, and I haven't really talked about this yet. There was one point I loved Salem's Lot so much. I wanted to write a letter to Stephen King asking, I remember a book of pictures from the film, like, because I thought Stephen King made the movie because I was like 7. So it's like my dad said, "Oh, write a letter to Stephen King," and he just like he said you could write a letter to him. And I remember he made fun of the way I wrote it or something like that. And my dad was always somebody kind of giving me a hard time about things, but I always wanted pictures from the movie, like pictures of the house and pictures of the vampires and things like that, and it didn't exist. So
right?
it's funny that now it's like that stuff that I wanted is on the Salem's Lot Then and Now, or it's in Tony Earnshaw's book. So all that stuff exists now, but as a kid, it didn't. But I wanted it then. So that's why like that book means so much to me, and those sites and things like that mean so much to me. I don't, like I said, I'm probably going to include like pictures that I took when I went to Ferndale for the first time, because the house on the hill where Marston was looked horrible. It was way worse looking than it. I mean, it looks nice now. It was scary. It was scary for being this little cottage. It was scarier than the Marston house. It was kind of, it was like it was up on levels. It was like it looked like it had been completely,
A lot of dead trees and just kind of.
It was just like, it looked like it was run down and hadn't been, it hadn't been kept up. But
pretty neglected.
Yeah, but now it looks really nice. I mean, walking up there and everything was yeah, but yeah, that's what I want to do this year. And I've also started thinking, and I'll just throw it out there, I haven't gone into any further thought of it, just popping into my head because of Lance passing. I said, the whole thing about the remake and all that, and I'm just like, God, what if they would have really done a sequel, like, or a sequel series, like a book series, something that called like, and I kept calling like After the Lot, On the Run, or something like that, because I always like, I want to know what happened between the 2-year period from when they burned the town down and got to Guatemala. That would be really interesting to know. That would be an interesting story. And I keep thinking, what if there was a comic book series or something that could tell that story? And I started thinking, like, what if some of the vampires got out of the root cellar? Like, what if Ned got out and went after Ben as a vampire? That would be really cool. I mean, it's like, I just think of things like that because these actors are gone, but you could still tell the story in some format.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, I've never written fiction, so I mean, outside of a couple short stories when I was younger, but I always wish that was where they were going with it. But, it's too late now for that cast. Unfortunately.
Do you have an idea of how many chapters you're going to end up with in the book?
I actually have my cheat sheet here. This is my book that I'm
Gotcha.
actually writing everything down in. I think I have it down to like 10 chapters right now. So
Cool.
I'm not going to make it like a 400-page book, but it's like I just want it to be like, substantial enough that, I've been seeing a lot more like independent books about certain films. Like I just picked up one that was written about the Saw franchise, and it was talking about the
Mhm.
original Saw film, and it was maybe 100 pages. So, something like that is what I'm kind of looking at, 100, maybe a little over that, if
Yeah.
that. I mean, we'll just see how, again, once you start going, sometimes it's like I started remembering things that I hadn't thought about in a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's really funny, Ben. The way you're describing this just reminds me of quotes from the movie. Oh, how's the book coming along?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, way to make a living.
Everything in Salem's Lot is centered around. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it's tough to write because I always had a hard time writing when I was in college because I would take creative writing courses and I just always had a hard time. It was easier for me to do screenwriting than to do actual prose. So it's like
Mhm.
we'll see how it goes with this. Like I said, it's easy now because I'm talking about it as myself, but trying to create a character with a voice distinct and everything, I had a hard time with that sometimes. So
Yeah.
I figured I'm just going to do the first project. It's going to be about me. So, but no, it's coming along.
Slow
well.
writer. Hope it's a
Yeah.
long book.
Yeah. Where is Susan?
Oh my gosh. The quotes keep coming. Well, hey man, I'm going to be the first one to buy it. I guarantee you.
Yeah. Oh, I'll give you guys copies. Like I said, I just really it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I feel
Yeah.
like there's enough that's happened to me around this film. Like I've had friendships. I've met, an actor from the film that meant a lot to me. I've gotten autographed pictures from the actors. You having one of my questions posed to Lance Kerwin was huge. I mean, to hear him answer that, I mean, that was big. That was big for me. I mean, I didn't get to talk to him, unfortunately, but at the same time, I mean, I'm grateful for that. There was a connection because something that I had always wondered about, I had the answer to. So,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. The little things that mean a lot.
That's awesome.
I was gonna bring up the whole thing about that Blu-ray thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
And it's I have it here because my friend Phil let me know about it. He said I got something sending you in the mail, and I'm like, oh, what is it? And he said, he said I hope you like it. It took an extra week to come, but pretty much what he did was and I'll read it to you. It says, this is an attempt to recreate the original broadcast experience from 1979. The basis of this edit was a high quality recreation of the two-part broadcast found online. This included the pre-show intros, commercials from the original broadcast were found online for all three breaks for the first night and one of the breaks for the conclusion. To fill in the remaining commercial breaks, other advertisements shown on CBS during the month of November 1979 were utilized. But it looks great. The trip out for me was watching the intro to part 2, which recapped part 1, because that's what I remember watching when I was 5.
I actually have that on video from TV 44 out in San Francisco.
Yeah, but this was just like this. He did a great job on this.
Wow.
And then, I just was blown away when I got that, because that, and then of course we got this was the one I kept, and I sent yours yesterday, Sam.
Awesome.
The movie on Blu-ray. Right. Yeah.
Overseas version. Yes.
Yeah. So that was a trip getting that this week. So I have those to fully sort of find some time to watch them both. Will be fun.
Cool.
But what I wanted to talk about was that, this looks to be an Italian release. There's a site on Instagram called Cine Museum, and I guess they did another release last year. But it looks like it's some kind of, it's got a translation here on it. Let me find it real quick. Sorry if I'm killing time here, but
you're fine. I tried to look it up online when you sent that link over, and I couldn't find anything. So it's certainly not in our region.
Yeah, it's not going to be in our region, but the only thing I can hope for is it just says for the first time on the Italian market in high definition, and it just says new extras and technical details coming soon. So, like I just recently purchased the Spanish release of Psycho 2. and that has a bunch of stuff in it. It actually has a documentary that a friend of mine did included, and then it came with like mini lobby cards, mini still photos, a map to the Bates Motel, a postcard. It came with all this stuff, but it's for the Spanish market. This is a European release, and I know that they've done a German release for the Psycho films.
Mhm.
So a lot of like, because they're not held to the same standards in terms of like rights issues and things like that, a lot of these independents are putting stuff like this out, but I don't know what new features they would have on it. That's the only thing I don't know, but I'm curious to see what that would be. But it says it's called the Salem's Lot Collection, and it includes Salem's Lot and Return to Salem's Lot, which is horrible. But I mean, I still have copies of it because I'm just a completist, and but that's what it says, and it's actually the image that they show is from the Cinema Fantastique. That's the way Barlow looked on that cover. So. I had never heard of anything about it. I don't know anything else other than that, but that'll be interesting to see what that pans into, or if it becomes anything.
Yeah, the new features thing has got me completely interested. Like what?
But I keep hearing that there's cut footage, but it's again, I don't know. Warner Brothers, I know Warner Brothers is really stingy with the license for Salem's Lot, and that's why you don't see shirt companies like Fright Rags and Cavity Colors doing any type of Salem's Lot.
The only thing I remember new, or I wouldn't say new, but the only thing I remember is watching the trailer, and there's Jason and Ben sitting by the staircase saying that there's a dead man upstairs, and I went, whoa, hey, wait a minute, that's not on anything we have.
No.
So it's got to be sitting somewhere if there's a little bit more, even if it's just 4 seconds of something that they never used. I know that when they showed the TV trailer for the two-part, some of the lines and some of the sound effects were slightly different. If you got a really good ear, it just seemed like a take they didn't use or they abandoned that they threw in the trailer.
Well, even the scene in the trailer when you first see Barlow in Ned Tebbett's cell, it's done from a different angle. In the regular one, it's like really close. In this one, it's further back.
Right.
And you actually see him a little bit better. It's not as dark.
Yeah. It could be all like the ratio and the lenses, whatever they use.
True.
But anyone's got a good eye, like all three of us, it's going to pick that out and go, wait a minute, there's got to be something.
You're like, no, it was slightly skewed in the original. It's like we're so fussy about it.
So nerdy.
Pick up on everything.
Everyone's like, I don't see it. Like,
But yeah, I don't know. I know there is cut footage. I've heard conflicting information about when Reggie Nalder said that some of his stuff was cut. They said he was referring to the European cut, but I'm like, but the European cut had all of Barlow's stuff in it. So I'm like going, I don't know what he's referring to then. So I mean, everything of Barlow is pretty much in that movie cut. That's one thing that they didn't cut out. The jail scene's there, the kitchen scene's there. The scene in the basement is there, the root cellar. So I don't know what scenes he was talking about. Again, I don't know. I hope that I do think that what we do, and I do feel like Salem's Lot is much more, you're hearing about it more. I feel like it was kind of a relic of the 70s and looked at, and kind of even with some of these Stephen King publications that say, oh, the 10 best Stephen King movies. Now they still won't put it in the top 10, but I feel like they're noticing it more than they used to because it wasn't a theatrical release. It was a television movie.
Well, as always, I want to thank my friends Ben and Sam, my colleagues of the Salem's Lot minority, for hanging out with me on this episode. Continue to remember the family of Lance Kerwin. We just hope they're doing well. We definitely want to support them how we can. I'll let you know what I find out about Ben's book because I'm really excited about reading it. But until then, we'll see you on the next episode. And I wish for you and your family and friends peace and blessings. I'll see you soon.